Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, we've done a lot on the COVID-19 inquiry, on the fight for the truth, on the laying of blame upon those in authority, and of course, none has been fighting the good fight harder than Lesley Roberts. Indeed, we've had her on the show many times where she's discussed the latest things that's happening in a constant fight to get somebody to be made responsible for all the wrong decisions that were made. We had indeed the bad news this week that effectively the Scottish Government will actually have nobody being blamed for it. However, there is still the COVID inquiry and the police investigation. As for the COVID inquiry, Lesley is now facing a potential gagging order stopping her from talking about it. They don't want the truth getting out either. Why so shady? What are they ashamed of? Why do they not want this woman who's worked tirelessly to provide answers, to raise the issue and to get to the truth, to tell that truth to the masses? There must be some reason perhaps. But we're going to take a look at this article to see why this is happening. And it is the first time really that this matter has come to the mainstream media, because for years this has been covered up. Certainly while Sturgeon was in control, this was covered up. But now she's gone, the press are starting to open up a bit more about it. So we'll take a look at this article, see what's going on, and see why Lesley is being shut down. Here goes. So, the death protocol. COVID whistleblower Lesley Roberts believes this one medical blunder cost thousands of lives. And I'm going to take issue. I don't believe it was a medical blunder. I believe it was a deliberate decision to put this end-of-life procedure in the booklet that was the treatment of COVID. Now, we've covered this in the past now, but we've only covered it from non-mainstream media perspective, because we've actually had to go in, we've had to find material that had been deleted from the government's website. They were so worried about it, they deleted it. Fortunately for us, and unfortunately for them, there is a thing called the Wayback Machine, and so it was possible to go and retrieve this information. We have published in the past videos this information, and it shows that in the actual official care guide, as issued by the SNP government via Jean Freeman at the time, it actually showed that in the care for COVID and in the treatments for COVID was an end-of-life palliative care that was basically euthanizing people with COVID. And it isn't a blunder. Whatever that headline says, it wasn't a blunder. I believe it was a deliberate act in order to actually end the life of elderly and elderly and vulnerable people, because they needed the beds, and also the fact that when the old die, it meant independence was much more likely because the oldies were more union-minded. That is my personal belief that that was why the decision was made. I can't prove that, but it is my belief, and I'm safe to say my belief regardless anyway. But at the start of the pandemic, a new treatment guidelines for the seriously ill victims were drawn up quickly and rolled out across the UK. They were based on end-of-life care with those terminal conditions, and some now believe the use of so-called silence me drugs led to many avoidable deaths. And again, we've covered that as well. Whistleblowing nurse Lesley Roberts has highlighted one devastating, deliberate choice, I'm going to put, that she believes led to thousands, but at least 5,500 is the figure, the estimated figure, of avoidable deaths during the COVID pandemic. She's speaking out after receiving a restriction order from the Scottish COVID inquiry that would prevent her from disclosing any of the evidence or documents she has submitted to the probe. Ms Roberts says she fears the impact will be to stop her and other campaigners from criticising the Scottish Government, because that's what it's all about. It's all about, denying blame, trying to hide, trying to move the focus away from the government. But yet it is the government's decisions that led to these things. Certainly, it was, this booklet which contained the end of life care, which we've shown in past videos, didn't, arrive unbidden from heaven. It was deliberately written and signed off by the government, and Jean Freeman in particular. And remember that Jean Freeman also wanted to clear 10,000 beds and which were very hard. It's very hard to clear beds, all these bed blockers, and yet within a month, magically did. Isn't that amazing? How what you can do can happen when you don't overly care about the treatment of the people in those beds. Anyway, Miss Roberts, who was an infection control link nurse with Greater Glasgow and Clyde NHS at the start of the pandemic, as well as a workplace health and safety rep for Unison, has been an outspoken critic of the decisions made by ministers and healthcare officials at the time. And of course, we've had her on, we've discussed that. She's explained what all those criticisms were. They were deep, they were wide-ranging, and they undoubtedly, when you listen to them, undoubtedly contributed to many, many unfortunate deaths that should never have happened. She's reporting the Scottish Government to Police Scotland and is calling for Nicola Sturgeon and Jean Freeman to face corporate homicide charges because of the decisions they chose to make. She has repeatedly highlighted the increased use of do not resuscitate forms, especially around elderly or vulnerable patients with COVID-19, often, not even against their will, but without them even knowing. This was put on there and they were unaware. Nobody consulted with them, which is little more than just death orders signed off at the behest of Jean Freeman. Do die. It's no more than Mengele watching the trains pull up at Auschwitz and going, yes, you, and picking them for death. That's that's the comparison we have with Jean Freeman and her department. It was that Mengolian sort of death choices. You, all done at the behest of Scotland, of the Scottish Government. Anyway, now with the threat of a gagging order looming from the inquiry, she wants to discuss what she sees as the most explosive part of the vast array of evidence she's gathered over the past 3 years. Now, of course, the thing is, they might want to put a gagging order on, and they may well put a gagging order on her. But once it's out in the public domain, they can put the gagging order on her. It doesn't stop me from talking about it to you. And therefore, it doesn't stop you talking about it to other people, in spreading this video. Definitely like this video. We need this video to go wide. People need to see it because we need to get it out in the public domain to protect Lesley. It all relates to the NG163 end-of-life protocol from NICE, the National Institute of Healthcare Excellence. It was issued to doctors and nurses across the UK on April 3rd, 2020 and remained in place until March 21st, 2021. So just shy of a year. According to Miss Roberts and other healthcare campaigners, NG163 essentially told medics to prescribe a deadly cocktail of powerful medications to people in hospital and elsewhere who'd been diagnosed with an advanced case of COVID-19. Here, drink this and your troubles will be over. You were basically euthanizing people pointlessly. Actually, with evil intent, I would suggest. With evil intent. She said it should never have been considered. People who were not at the end of their lives were being brought to the end because of those medications. If they had breathing difficulties, then their breathing was being suppressed even further by these substances. And it was this that then killed them, not COVID. They were euthanized. They were just basically putting down the old and the vulnerable in exactly the same way as they did in Auschwitz, in Bergen, in Belsen, in Sobibor. They were no different. The NHS in Scotland became the concentration camps for an elderly genocide at the behest of the Scottish Government. Just like the catastrophic decision to move elderly patients from hospitals to care homes, untested, knowing that they probably had COVID and putting it into a care home where elderly people would be and would then die, and thus reducing the number of people who would vote union rather than independence. All very cynically done. It was often, even after they tested positive for coronavirus, they were put into these homes. And then NG163 was controversial right from the start. On April the 20th, 2020, 11 of the UK's most senior consultants in palliative care medicine, including Barry Laird from the University of Edinburgh and St Columba's Hospice, wrote to the British Medical Journal to flag their concerns. They said, "We fully understand why shortcuts to the normal NICE guideline procedures were necessary in order to produce COVID-19's guidance rapidly. But we are concerned that the uncritical use of NG163 may create unintended risk for people with suspected or actual COVID-19 infection. In other words, saying, if we give this cocktail of stuff to these people, they're likely going to die, even if they wouldn't have died with COVID. We are euthanizing people on an industrial scale. I'm surprised they didn't build ovens the way it was going. The guidance was based on previous NICE advice aimed at care of people who are likely to die in the coming hours and days. And they added many people in the UK who are suspected of having COVID-19 will not have advanced cancer or be dying from another existing terminal condition. The palliative care specialist also warned of the danger of the potent combination of opioid, benzodiazepine and or neuroleptic drugs recommended by NICE. Now, of course, opioids, you're talking morphine, which will bring you down, put you into a state of sleep or whatever. Bennies, benzodiazepine, that will, restricts your breathing. That brings you down again, and also is a mental agent and things. So, you're putting a lot of stuff in there that's bringing people down. And unfortunately, many of them never, ever came back up again. They said it takes great skill and experience to use palliative sedation proportionately so that the extreme physical and existential distress are palliated, but death is not primarily accelerated, they said. NG 163 states, sedation and opioid use should not be withheld because of a fear of causing respiratory depression. So that line basically says, keep using it, don't you worry if the patient dies. And in that, you have corporate manslaughter. And that is why Gene Freeman and Nicola Sturgeon need to be charged and tried, because they signed off on that NG 163. They knew, they will have been told, they will have been informed by the experts, and if not, you have to ask, why were they signing off stuff like this without having any expert opinion? And still, they signed off on it. And it's that line that will put them in prison with any luck. Anyway, they continued in this letter. If COVID-19 infection were uniformly fatal, this would be an acceptable statement. But for people not previously known to be at the end of their life, there is a potential risk of unintended serious harm if these medications are used incorrectly and without the benefit of specialist palliative care advice. And what they mean by that is using this will kill people. And yet it's there as a treatment for COVID. That treatment was basically the death of the patient. They were eased into their graves by the use of this, which was recommended as a care, not as an end of life sort of treatment, but as a in the treatment of COVID. What's the best way to treat COVID? Kill the patient, apparently, according to Gene Freeman, because she signed off on this. Speaking to the Scottish Daily Express, Ms Roberts said the decision to ignore these and other warnings about the NICE guidance should play a central role in both the UK and Scottish public inquiries. They were called silence me drugs, she said. I don't believe any nurse wants to watch their patients die, but I'm afraid that is what happened as a result of this COVID care protocol. Her evidence around evidence around NG 163 forms a key part of both her submission to the Scottish Government inquiry and her witness statement provided to Police Scotland detectives from Operation Copa, the long-running investigation into COVID deaths in Scotland's care homes. Now, there's a link here. This guy, he is explaining to him, he explains everything about the use of the opioid and the benzodiazepam and that treatment and how it ends people's lives. What I will do is in the comment section, I will pin a link that will take you to that video as well. He's much more sort of medically descriptive of what happens. It's a very good video, and I do recommend that you watch that video. He explains what everything is happening. Anyway, a group called the People's Care Watchdog is also campaigning about the unlawful end-of-life protocols brought in as a result of NG 163, and it argues that many COVID deaths in care homes and hospitals could and should have been avoided. The group adds many people lost family members during lockdown, and the clinical guidance produced by NICE in April 2020 demands public scrutiny to understand the impact it had on deaths in care homes and hospitals and in other places. It's all over the place. Finally, the mainstream media is jumping on this. They've been silent for so long because they were scared of the wrath of the SNP. Oh, if you report this, you're not getting access. But since Sturgeon's gone and they've seen that Humza Yousaf is a man with no teeth and nothing down the front, the Ken doll of the SNP, they feel free now to start telling her story. Lesley, well done. The fight's been long, the fight's been hard, but now people are starting to be aware. And now that it's hitting mainstream media, it isn't just in enthusiastic YouTubers who believe in you and who trust you and who are completely on your side. Now the mainstream media is joining us in the fight. We may yet win. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to round off here and I'm going to come up. Been a long video and I apologise for that. If everyone in the NHS was half as brave as Lesley, this would already be sorted out. A lot of people are scared. They're scared for their jobs. They're scared for their reputation. They're scared for their professional standing. They don't want to make waves, and one can understand it. When you are sitting there and you've got a mortgage and debts, you're trying to raise a family, and someone threatens to take all that away from you if you create a stir, if you go to the press or anything like that. So it does take a lot of balls to go and do what Lesley's done. And I, for one, am very glad that that woman has got a hefty pair of balls. She's been incredibly brave. She's been utterly tireless in her work. And I think that I don't know how to praise her enough. But like I say, I'm just a YouTuber. I'm nobody. And the good viewers who watch my channel, I thank you all. And you are aware of what Lesley has done. And now finally that the mainstream media is starting to push the cause, many more people will become aware. Questions will be asked and resolution will be demanded, I think. So well done. And finally, at last, in the big wide world of the mainstream media. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for, over the last sort of getting on for 2 years now, I've had some very loyal viewers that have followed me all the way, and they've followed this story all the way, and we're watching now. I think we're moving into the end game of this story. Lesley may have lost the case against the government, but there is, of course, still the COVID inquiry and the police. And I think as this widens now, and as more people become aware of it, it may well snowball, and let's hope it does. So do keep talking about this. Do keep pushing it. Please share this video. Please like this video. And we will fight this together, and we will bring this, hopefully, to a good conclusion where Lesley can be justified in her actions over the years. And we all say well done and thank you. And I will just stop now. No more. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and we'll give it up for Lesley. Bye.